Solo She Goes, not about living solo, but about living solely responsible for what happens next. Let's do this.
Hi from Solo She Goes. Today we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of finances. This is typically the real ugly. This is where the work happens. This is where all the buttons get pushed. We can get rid of stuff. But when it comes down to our finances, it's a really tough one, and I get that. And I want to preface it right off the hop. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not going to make any suggestions on what you do with your finances. What I want us to do is gain an awareness. Before we can ever make changes, we have to at least have some awareness of where we are now. I talked in an earlier video about knowing where you are flying from is the only way you can really book a flight to somewhere. So this is all about deciding where we're at now without any judgment or criticism or critiquing. It's just we got to get it out there. So by the end of today, what I want us to have done is at least, again, get a picture of where we're at now. We're going to start to talk about some of the opportunities once we can get a handle on our finances. But again, we really need to know where we are now. So it is the good, the bad, and the ugly. It will get messy. It's like the ugly stage of a great painting. One movie, it said, it'll all be great in the end. And if it's not great, it means it's not the end. So this is a place to start. So when we talk about finances, I like to use a program called Mint, and I've put the link down below. It's a free program. It's by Intuit, a very reputable company. I like it because it's very visual. It allows me to set goals. You do have to take a leap of faith because you do have to put in all of your banking information because it does actually go out and sync with all of your banking transactions. But you can put your mortgage in there. If you have any investments, you can put it in there, your RSPs or your 401k, I guess. Technology is what it is. I have been using it for years and I've never had a problem. So I really encourage you to try that. But if you want to go old school and just do an Excel spreadsheet or a notebook, that's fine. It's starting from where we are today, but also then committing to analyzing it, looking at the end of each month. Where did you fall off the rails? Where did you go off budget? So this is just kind of an awareness so that we can tweak, and not just achieve some arbitrary budget, but that we can really start to look at where can we make changes? Where are our biggest expenses and how can we manage those or change them to fit a new reality? Creating your financial picture. So we talk about doing a balance sheet is just everything that you own versus everything that you owe. And so that's a critical one. So if you do have a house or a car or something, those are your assets, and then your liabilities is what you owe against those. So you're getting your net worth. And that's an important thing to know. And it can become kind of a game as you watch your net worth climb. As you pay off debt, your net worth is going to go up. I know this isn't like super fun, but it's so important and we have to do it. The other thing is coming up with an income statement. An income statement is what have you got coming in versus what have you got going out. My dad used to always say, when your output exceeds your intake, your upkeep becomes your downfall. And it's so true. This is simple math. So you only have one of two options. If you can't make any more money and you're living beyond your means, then you have to spend less. Living within your means is almost an old-fashioned notion. We've become such a culture of debt, and our debt tolerance is so high. If we were to sit down with our grandparents, they would think we were insane for the amount of money we owe, and that we, for the most part, don't have sleepless nights about it. So my challenge is once we create this financial picture that we have, especially our income statement, what we have coming in versus what we have going out, and then if we were to pretend we were sitting down with our 20-year-old son or daughter, and they presented this picture to us, that they make, let's say they make $1,500 a month, and they want to go and rent an apartment for $1,000 a month. What would your first reaction be? Your first reaction would be, are you nuts? And second would probably be, well, you better be prepared to take in a roommate, or you better be prepared to take a second job. So that would seem like a logical response to someone who is trying to spend such a great portion of their income on their housing. I would hazard a guess that for most of us, housing eats up probably 60% of our income. If we can change that portion, I did a poll recently on Solo She Goes. If you were to have to live on half of your income, what would be the biggest challenge? And housing was the biggest one. We all come to this point with a lifetime of emotional and cultural and social hang-ups when it comes to money. And I think that's created a really difficult, challenging situation for all of us because we have been encouraged to buy more, spend more, bigger house is better, newer car is better. I was there and I get it. So I'm not saying that's all bad, but, and we keep coming back to this idea of the why. If our why, in that why we want to redesign this next phase of our lives, if it is strong enough, then we can start to challenge some of those cultural ingrained ideas we have about how we spend our money, our consumerism in general, and what defines us, whether it's our house or where we live, who we live with. In this financing segment, we're going to challenge some of that. So when you look at your financial picture and it's ugly, you only have one of two options. One, you can spend less or make more. So I want to go back to that 20-year-old that we're talking to, and we're looking at their financial picture and we're giving them advice. So their financial picture now is ours, and whatever we've determined is our fixed expenses versus our variable expenses or discretionary spending. And what advice would we give them? So just to recap, step one is all about where are you now? So download Mint or get your spreadsheet or your notebook out and really find out where you are financially now. Do your balance sheet. What do you own versus what do you owe? Do your income statement. What do you have coming in? What do you have going out? And step 4 is always, now what? What's next? Now that we have that information, what are we going to do with it? I recently did a poll on Solo She Goes, and one of the trick questions was, if I gave you $1 million and 2 hours, could you pack all of your cherished belongings and things you absolutely couldn't live without? Could you do that in 2 hours? And everybody said yes. So it tells me when we look at all those things around us that we absolutely can't possibly live without, it has a price, $1 million in 2 hours. So don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but it's simple. It's simple math. So if we really want to get a handle on our finances, we have to know where we are now. We have to come up with creative ways of achieving what we want. And then we got to be open to looking at all of the opportunities that could help get us there. And I'm not saying you're going to embrace all of them, but there are so many exciting options. So as I said in the beginning, the longer you wait for the future, the shorter it will be. So what are you waiting for? I'll see you in the next video.